For the first time since she retired a decade ago in 2015, it looks like former WWE Divas Champion AJ Lee could be set to return to in-ring action for WWE. How has this happened? How have we got here? And how has Paul Triple H been able to pull off what many have tried in over a decade, and that's get AJ Lee to wrestle again? We'll let you know in this 365 Deep Dive. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and one name is dominating the headlines right now, particularly after WWE Clash in Paris, and that is AJ Lee. After over a decade out of the ring, not competing in a match for over 10 years, could AJ Lee be set to return to professional wrestling? Could she be set to return to in-ring competition? Could she be set to return to WWE? Well, Triple H has got a master plan, and seemingly he may have played it to perfection. Let's get into this and detail how we got here and what the future could look like. Let's begin with AJ Lee's departure from WWE in the first place. Now, AJ Lee's final two matches took place in 2015. In which AJ Lee competed at WrestleMania 31. She teamed up with former WWE Divas Champion Paige. They allied together to defeat the Bella Twins at WrestleMania 31. That was on March 29th, 2015, as I mentioned, over a decade ago. Now, the following night on Monday Night Raw, we would have her final match in WWE, possibly until in the very near future. But she teamed together with Paige and also with Naomi in a six-woman tag team match to defeat Natalya and the Bella Twins on the Raw after WrestleMania. This was at the SAP Center in San Jose, California. And as I mentioned, this would end up being her final match because WWE later announced her retirement. This post went out on social media, on Twitter at the time. It also went out on their website, which we'll show you shortly. It was very short. It said, breaking, AJ Lee, real name April Mendez, has decided to retire from in-ring competition with WWE. We wish AJ the very best. Now, as I mentioned, this was also posted on their website with the headline, AJ Lee retires from WWE. Once again, posting the same statement that AJ Lee, April Mendez, had decided to retire from in-ring competition with World Wrestling Entertainment, and they wished AJ the very best. Now, as for the reason behind her decision to retire from professional wrestling, well, she went into it more in her memoir called Crazy Is My Superpower. Now, this was something that was written quite a while actually after her WWE retirement. It was published by Crown Archetype on April 4th, 2017, and she wrote this autobiography memoir called Crazy Is My Superpower, How I Triumphed by Breaking Bones, Breaking Hearts, and Breaking the Rules. The book covered her upbringing and career in professional wrestling. It debuted at number 10 on the New York Times bestseller list for hardcover nonfiction. Upon release, she described writing as, quote, very much the next chapter of her life, and had begun work on a second book. Now, as I mentioned, as to why she decided to retire, not only from WWE, but also professional wrestling, she opened up on it in this memoir. Now, she said permanent damage to her cervical spine and the fulfillment of her goals led to the decision. In addition to that, of course, there was a lot of scrutiny on AJ Lee, particularly after the departure of her husband CM Punk from WWE in early 2014, despite Punk's very public departure, falling out and lawsuit involving WWE. AJ Lee still worked there, and there was tension. Every time she would be in the ring, they would chant CM Punk, or there was always this elephant in the room there. And she opened up on this in her memoir and said that she felt caught in the middle between WWE and her husband CM Punk following his controversial departure in January of 2014, but continued to wrestle as long as she could before ultimately deciding, as mentioned, to call it a day due to injuries and due to fulfillment that she really felt like she had achieved everything there was to achieve in WWE for a female wrestler at the time. Now, in projects after her WWE and professional wrestling retirement. As mentioned, she went on to actually do quite a lot of writing. She wrote for comic books. You can see on the screen right there that she wrote for DC Comics. She wrote Wonder Woman, Black and Gold, an anthology miniseries celebrating Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary. She's been an advocate for mental health awareness and animal welfare. She served as an ambassador for organizations such as the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the JED Foundation, the American Society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. In 2018, she was awarded with NAMI's Multicultural Outreach Award. As I mentioned, she did a lot of writing as well. She wrote the comic book series Glow versus the Babyface, based on the television series Glow. The first 4 issues were published by IDW Publishing in November 2019. In 2020, she collaborated with actress Amy Garcia. They created a production company called Scrappy Heart Productions, dedicating to elevating diverse voices through storytelling. They wrote the Dungeons & Dragons 4-issue limited series At the Spine of the World. The first issue was published once again by IDW in November 2020. Alongside John Sweetman, they co-wrote the screenplay for the 2022 Netflix film Blade of the 47 Ronin. So she certainly did keep busy with writing and outside projects. And then in 2021, she dipped her toe back into professional wrestling. Now, it wasn't with WWE, it wasn't with AEW, which we're going to talk about in just a bit, but actually, it was with WOW Women of Wrestling. Now, after 6 years away from the wrestling industry, Mendez joined WOW Women of Wrestling. It was a promotion, and she joined as an executive producer in October 2021, serving alongside Jeannie Buss. Now, this announcement coincided with WOW entering into a multi-year distribution agreement with Viacom CBS. It was the biggest distribution opportunity in the US and abroad in the history of women's professional wrestling. It was seen as a major move for women's professional wrestling outside of the mainstream promotions such as, WWE, AEW, TNA Wrestling, etc., etc. Now, beginning in September of 2022, Mendez did appear on the program. She was a color commentator. She provided color commentary for WOW's syndicated weekly wrestling television program. She never wrestled. She'd made it clear from the very start she had no interest in wrestling again and didn't have any interest in competing for Women of Wrestling, but did serve as not only a color commentator, but also an executive producer, as I mentioned. By August of 2023, Mendez said she would be departing WOW at the end of her season-long contract, and WOW didn't really go on to do all that much, and a lot of the hype and maybe expectations surrounding it all led to not really anything happening, and any thoughts of AJ Lee wrestling for them kind of ended very, very quickly. Now, once again, people started to get talking about AJ Lee potentially coming back to professional wrestling. During her time she appeared in the Heels program. Now, if you're not familiar, Heels is a television program about sort of the insides of professional wrestling. It's a show about two brothers and rivals, one being a villain, or a heel in professional wrestling, the other's a hero or a babyface. They played out scripted matches. They warred over their late father's wrestling promotion. They vied for national attention in a small town of Georgia. There was a lot of different wrestlers that cameoed in it, particularly CM Punk. It was a Stephen Amell pushed project, and she did appear in a recurring role in season 2 as Ellie Dorado. And during that process, similar to CM Punk prior to him going back to professional wrestling in 2021, it meant that she had to get back inside the ring and she had to work out. And videos went viral of AJ Lee training, obviously competing during the show, but training inside the ring with her husband CM Punk. And naturally, once again, the question came out of, did she get the bug? Did she get the itch? Similar to CM Punk when he started doing work with heels, that suddenly he decided that he wanted to get back into professional wrestling, but the same thing happened with AJ Lee. And once again, things went quiet. Now, her husband, everyone knows, is CM Punk, and CM Punk returned to professional wrestling for the first time in 7 years in 2021 when he debuted for All Elite Wrestling at AEW Rampage The First Dance. And throughout the whole time of CM Punk's tenure in All Elite Wrestling, many people wondered and asked the question, is AJ Lee going to become All Elite like CM Punk? So much so that he was asked quite a few times in separate interviews, and he was actually quite blunt about how it wasn't going to happen. Now, as I mentioned, CM Punk's return to pro wrestling led to some, including Britt Baker, to wonder maybe his wife, AJ Lee, would follow his lead. Punk may inadvertently kind of fueled speculation when he spoke about his wife on an episode of AEW Dynamite. It was actually on his debut on Dynamite, a few days after his debut at AEW Rampage The First Dance. Just after he teased Bryan Danielson's debut, he shouted out his wife. He said, "Hello, April," and it led to people saying, oh, does this mean that AJ Lee is going to sign with AEW? Now, he did an interview with the New York Post in 2021, shortly after he made his AEW debut, and he was asked, is AJ Lee going to come into AEW? Punk said, quote, I just want to say no just because of her neck. The reason she stopped wrestling is because of her neck. She's got a bad neck, you know. I wouldn't want her to jeopardize her health, and neither would she, so we'll put an end to that rumor right now. So, at the time, it kind of lined up with what she had said in her memoir, in her autobiography, that yes, she retired from WWE because of those aforementioned issues with the company and with CM Punk and the tension that was there, but also she had very serious health issues. She had a really bad neck, she had a cervical spine injury, and she might not even be medically cleared to wrestle again, even if she wanted to. But she never actually ruled out a comeback. She's definitely downplayed the idea on several occasions because of her injury history, but still, people kept asking questions. Now, of course, CM Punk's time in AEW was, to put it lightly, a tumultuous one, and Punk eventually was fired with cause by AEW in 2023 after his incident backstage at AEW All in London, getting in a fight with Jack Perry and also lashing out at Tony Khan. It led to his departure from AEW, and then many people didn't think that Punk was ever going to return to wrestling again because WWE for the longest time had distanced themselves from CM Punk and the idea of him ever returning. So the idea was, well, she didn't return in AEW, Punk's not going to go back to WWE, so I really guess it's never going to happen. But then, hell froze over in November of 2023 as CM Punk returned to the company after close to a decade out of it. He returned stunningly at the conclusion of Survivor Series War Games in Chicago, Illinois, and then once again on the following episode of Raw when he returned and he had a live microphone on WWE television for the first time in close to 10 years. Once again, he shouted out his wife April, and he's made numerous references to his wife AJ Lee. And he's even skipped around the ring recently on a WWE European tour, and he's paid homage to AJ Lee on several occasions. And just like it was when he was in AEW, those questions have come back up, which are, you're back in this company, so you're back in WWE. Is AJ Lee going to be back in WWE? And like all the other times, he'd largely played it down and sort of suggested that, well, that's not necessarily his decision. She's also really busy. It's not like she's clamoring to come back. She's got a lot of outside projects. She's got her own production company. She writes comic books. She writes TV series. She writes films. And she just never really has spoken that much about wanting to come back to professional wrestling. If it was to happen, it'd be in WWE. It's the biggest platform possible. It's where her history is. She'd always wanted to be a WWE superstar, and certainly now there's much more for female WWE superstars to do than there was when she was there. Now you've got championships on both brands. You've got mid-card championships. You've got tag team championships. You've got women's Royal Rumbles. There's certainly a lot for AJ Lee to do that she wasn't able to do before. And of course, she has star power, so it certainly could interest her, and maybe she could work with her husband. What about that, working with her husband? Well, this has been really where the rumor mill now has started to go into overdrive. If you watched WWE Clash in Paris just a few days ago at the time recording this video, the closing image you would have seen is right there. Seth Rollins, still the World Heavyweight Champion, defeating CM Punk along with LA Knight and Jey Uso in a Fatal 4-Way main event. And Paul Heyman and the other members of the Vision, Bronson Reed, Bron Breakker, they were gone. Heyman was in the hospital because of Roman Reigns. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed were banned from the building. If they came back in, they were going to be suspended indefinitely without pay by Raw General Manager Adam Pearce. This meant Seth Rollins was all by himself. But as he said, I'm always 2 steps ahead. And those 2 steps ahead were involving his wife, Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch. She low-blowed CM Punk and allowed Rollins to hit the stomp, the 1-2-3, retain the World Heavyweight Championship, and on screen for the first time since sort of 2019 when they did actually team up for a little bit. But really now, Becky Lynch is a member of the Vision, and she's just the latest member to screw CM Punk. And it just shows how much this family hates Phil Brooks. And as many people have pointed out, well, if now Becky Lynch is getting involved, Seth Rollins' wife, CM Punk's not going to hit the GTS on Becky Lynch. He's going to need some female backup. And if Rollins can involve his wife, then maybe CM Punk will involve his wife. And if you think that's the direction that possibly this is where this is going, you're not the only one, because according to a report from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there are a lot of rumors that are suggesting that this could be indeed where this is going. Courtesy of Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, straight after Clash in Paris, he posted this extensive report confirming that there is a lot of rumours right now swirling about AJ Lee returning to WWE. He wrote, quote, "The end of WWE Clash in Paris lends some credibility to rumours we've heard floating within WWE over the last couple of months. WWE sources have indicated that AJ Lee's name has been brought up in numerous pitches internally of late. Lee, the wife of current WWE star CM Punk, has largely been uninterested in making a return to the ring over the past 10 years. Becky Lynch interfered in the main event of WWE Clash in Paris, helping her husband Seth Rollins. Immediately upon that happening, we received messages from WWE sources hopeful that the pitches they've been hearing about were related to that. We've also heard that some of those pitches weren't quite shut down like they used to be. Now, Fightful do stress, they say, quote, "We can't confirm an AJ Lee return is a go, but sources inside WWE said there has been more traction on it of late than in previous years." They say, Fightful have heard, when WOW Women of Wrestling brought her in, she made it clear she wasn't interested in wrestling, but would serve in other capacities. Numerous women on the AEW roster said they would half-jokingly needle CM Punk about getting AJ Lee to come in, something that a number of women on the WWE roster have also indicated. CM Punk also, quote, "skipped to the ring," end quote, during a European live event recently, an ode to his wife. AJ Lee last wrestled in March 2015 and has been effectively retired for over a decade since. Fightful say they were told by those that she worked with on Heels that she seemed nervous to get back in the ring for the filming of that show, and that once she got involved, it was like she'd never left the ring. One WWE higher-up in the last few weeks had told Fightful that if she were to return, they don't have concerns about her time out of the ring for a number of reasons. One being that she looks like she just left TV at all times, and because she's married to someone who also took a long amount of time off from wrestling and returned. Now, Fightful then ended it by saying, "We'll continue to speak to sources about the situation and see if we can get something more definitive than the pitches that have been made as of late." So it feels like certainly Triple H has got a master plan at play. And when it comes to professional wrestling, when it comes to WWE, the devil is truly in the detail. Now, CM Punk has called himself the devil in the past, but could he bring in his wife to feud with his arch-rival Seth Rollins and his wife Becky Lynch? I guess time will tell, but with this deep dive, it feels very kind of parallel to CM Punk's return to professional wrestling, doesn't it? He had controversially left WWE in 2014 and found his way back to WWE in late 2023 after close to a decade of absence. AJ Lee leaves WWE, retires from professional wrestling in March of 2015/April of 2015. Over a decade later, a similar amount of time to CM Punk, could AJ Lee be about to do the same thing and return to WWE? Could she be teaming up with her husband to face off against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch? Could she be feuding with Becky Lynch? Becky Lynch is the current Women's Intercontinental Champion. Could AJ Lee become a future Women's Intercontinental Champion? Could this lead to an extensive long-term run for AJ Lee in WWE, with her and her husband retiring at the same time? It certainly feels like now everything's on the table, and the answer of will AJ Lee come back to wrestle being closer to a yes now than it's ever been over the course of the last 10 plus years. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think Triple H has got an AJ Lee WWE return master plan at play here? Or are we just getting carried away with reckless speculation based off an angle that's happened at a recent PLE? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. More deep dives coming soon. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.